Hong Kongers celebrate V for Vendetta Day as violence takes a turn for the worse. And Carrie Lam is here to stay. This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Before I begin, I just need to remind you that YouTube is demonetizing nearly all of our Hong Kong episodes. We've only been able to keep making them because of an amazing outpouring of support from fans who contribute to the crowdfunding website Patreon. So a big thanks to them, and if you can, please consider supporting the show. So hey, did you remember the 5th of November? Hong Kongers did. It's Guy Fawkes Day, or let's be real, more commonly known as V for Vendetta Day. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets in Hong Kong wearing Guy Fawkes masks from the movie. The Hong Kong government outlawed masks a few weeks ago, and as you can see, that's working really well. But that's not all. Remember your college graduation? Parading through campus with your friends? Wearing Guy Fawkes masks to protect your identity while protesting your authoritarian government. Ah, youth. The protests in Hong Kong have now entered their 22nd week, and this week, things got bad.
What started as a peaceful protest quickly turned chaotic when riot police stormed the place, and a man with a knife went on a stabbing spree outside. District Councillor Andrew Chiu tried to intervene, and the attacker turned on him. The man was finally subdued and beaten by protesters.
Wow, props to Andrew Chiu. But the attacker turned on him doesn't quite do justice. The attacker bit his ear off. Then a few days later, a pro-Beijing lawmaker was approached by a man bearing flowers, who then stabbed him. Don't worry, folks, he's gonna be okay. It's really almost a miracle that no one has been killed yet in direct relation to these protests, or else things might really fly off the rail. Oh. Police were using tear gas to clear protesters out of a parking garage. You're not really supposed to use tear gas in an enclosed space like that, but I guess at this point the police are well beyond supposed to. It's unclear exactly what happened, but a student protester fell from the parking garage. He was hospitalized for his injuries on Monday and he died on Friday. Protesters say police directly contributed to Chou's death, not only by tactics to roust protesters, but also by delaying first responders, who they say had to proceed to the scene on foot after police cars reportedly blocked the ambulance. Protesters held an impromptu memorial for Chow. And guess who showed up? Police. Do you know you can't wear masks at a rally? A police commander said. This is a funeral, are you crazy? Another man was heard yelling back. So people in Hong Kong are on edge. It doesn't help that millions of people there have been exposed to tear gas at some point over the past few months. In that time, police have shot around 6,000 canisters of tear gas. And I can tell you from personal experience, it doesn't feel very nice. But don't worry, those days are done. Now, Hong Kong police have switched to a new version of tear gas made in China. It's explosive and can burn your skin off. Not as much of a burn, though, as when the police call you a cockroach. Apparently not just protesters, anybody, even bystanders and journalists. It's nice to know the police think of citizens as bugs to be squashed. And if you're wondering, how is Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam still in power after all this? Well, the Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping, the guy who has real power in Hong Kong, says Lam isn't going anywhere. The two of them are close. I mean, not physically close. Not at all. But they do dress to match. But it's not just Carrie Lam who's receiving messages of support. A group of Cuban Americans turned up at a Miami Heat game wearing shirts supporting the Hong Kong protesters. Something about escaping communism must make you sympathize with other people trying to escape communism. And people inside mainland China also are sending their messages of support for Hong Kong protesters. You know how I know? Because the party has launched a massive effort to scrub all those messages from the internet. But there's two sides to every issue. A UK baking competition decided to show its support for tyranny and oppression. They disqualified a Hong Kong protest-themed cake. Cake International said the content and message behind the cake has been viewed as offensive and led to complaints from attendees. As you can see, the cake was very offensive. It even had fake tear gas. I hope it's fake, because typically you don't want your cake to make people cry. And finally, Hong Kong is banning political satire at its annual Lunar New Year fairs because of safety issues. People have in the past sold items that make fun of the government, which is very unsafe. Gotta get rid of those pro-democracy tote bags. And with that, I think I'll answer a question from a Patreon supporter. Remember, this show wouldn't exist without the support of fans on Patreon, so be sure to give them a big thanks in the comments below. Benja Sofan Sariwata asks, what would you say to someone who is brainwashed by the CCP propaganda? Well, that's a good question, and unfortunately I don't have a great answer to it. It kind of depends on how well you know the person. A buddy of mine tried to convince me that Huawei was a totally independent company, and I was crazy to think otherwise. When I told him that by Chinese law, Huawei would have to turn over data to the government, his response was, "Oh, but it's okay that the US bombed Serbia?" I honestly didn't know what to say to that. If it's a friend or family member, keep gently trying to tell them all the news that's coming out. Better yet, show them videos. Of course, if it's some random person on the internet, well, there probably isn't much you can say or do to reach them, so I'd recommend just going outside and smelling some flowers instead. Thanks for your question. And if you have a question for me you want to hear answered on the show, sign up to join the China Uncensored 50-cent army by supporting the show with $1 or more per episode. Again, YouTube is demonetizing us so much we would have to shut down the show if it weren't for your support. And to everyone, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.